Welcome, everyone, to It Stinks, the pop culture mass film review. I am your host, the critical crackhead, because drinking is for pussies. That's how I feel about it, even though I'm kind of a hypocrite because I do drink. And if you're a 15-year-old edgelord that discovered Richard Dawkins last year, you're going to love this Fisher Price art film featuring a villain whose dialogue sounds like he's reading from the syllabus for Atheism 101. Spoilers start after the music, you fucks. I want to like this movie. My wife picked it after all, and I have a healthy sense of self interest. I'm trying to get that ass. It's a pretty straightforward film, Heretic. It's a pretty straightforward film. It's a little twisty. There's a twist or two in there, for good measure. But it's well played all around. The actors all did a fine job. People are praising Hugh Grant, which I think is valid. He's done a lot of work in recent years to diversify himself since he's a little bit too old for the easy paydays he enjoyed, for the vapid and forgettable rom-coms he made in the 2000s. So, he's got to work for a living these days. It happens to a lot of broads when they get old too. The tits get saggy. They start having to work a little bit for a living. Can't just take your top off anymore. They got an elephant graveyard for strippers called the Claremont Lounge in Atlanta, and that is one of my absolute favorites because it's not like the girls are hot; they're not, but it is the only place that you can go to watch a woman crush a beer can in between her prodigious butt cheeks, and that to me is worth at least a couple of bucks as a tip. But I digress. Um, for my money, the real standout actor in this film is Topher Grace, who somehow managed to become an entirely different human being. I didn't even fucking recognize this guy. I had no idea Topher Grace was even in this fucking movie until I read the cast list on Wikipedia. So, what are you going to tell me next? Wesley Snipes played one of the cute Mormon girls? So look, performances were good overall. No big complaints about the craftsmanship about this film. I do have complaints. I have to complain. This is the It Stinks movie review after all. So first and foremost, as you already know, this is an A24 film. A24 has sort of turned into like very much its own kind of thing. It's like almost its own little genre. It's definitely carved a niche. A24 has. There seems to be a fairly consistent aesthetic to their films, and it's here too. We see it here in Heretic as well. A24 films are like gateway art films, and that's the nicest thing I'm going to say about A24 films. I don't mean it as a compliment. A24 films, they make art films for idiots and film bros that don't really like actual art films. A24 films is like baby's first art films, like the Fisher Price version, right? Is like the fucking Coco Melon of art films. Get the fuck out of here. They're accessible, there's a story. They use horror in films like Heretic. They use martial arts in films like Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it's just to like lure people in. It's just a hey, you like Jet Li, right? When there are far better martial arts films, there are far better horror films out there. Remember when horror films used to have titties in them? Goddamn, what happened to us? This movie has two cute Mormon girls in it and zero titties. Whatever. The mise en scène of Heretic is warm, just like, it's an A24 film. So it's got to have this warmth. There's a lot of these like browns and like red tones that kind of keep this interior. Most of it is taking place in an interior, keeps it very warm. There's a lot of candlelight, shitty wood paneling, shitty wallpaper, and shitty flannel sweater vests, with the overall effect being to create a look to the setting and mise en scène and characters that's very like unassuming. It's even kind of homey. It's not supposed to be like chic and modern. I mean, it's supposed to look like a couple of Mormon missionaries that don't have two nickels to rub together. And Hugh Grant is supposed to be, his villain character is supposed to be this affable, kind of friendly. It's a mask for his more, I guess, nefarious purposes. But speaking of the villain of Heretic, I still don't understand his whole end game. Like, I think at first blush it kind of makes sense, but don't bother looking closely because the cracks will begin to appear. I mean, I think it's fine in a film like Halloween to not really understand what the villain is trying to do or trying to achieve, because the inscrutable nature of such an antagonist is the raison d'être. It's French. Go look it up. Okay. I'm going to say the F word and I'm going to speak French in my videos. It is what it is. All right. I'm a learned man, but I also like profanity. In a movie like Heretic, where the villain's whole point is to make a point, you'd think he'd actually fucking have a point, but spoiler, he doesn't. I mean, he kind of does, but it's a stupid one. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why. His whole point is some like anti-religious gotcha that sounds like a 13-year-old posting on Reddit, okay? It's not like an especially deep argument for atheism. I don't know, any 13-year-old has had these ideas like, what if religion was all about controlling the masses? Yeah, okay. We've all read Karl Marx when we were 14. I understand. People think religion is the opiate of the masses. I don't need a 2-hour movie for Hugh Grant to fucking bang me over the head with it while fucking talking about the fucking Hollies and the fucking Radiohead or whatever, whoever the fuck, I don't know. By the end of the Heretic, there's a pseudo reveal. I told you there's spoilers coming. There's like a pseudo reveal that he's like got this old lady farm. Hugh Grant's villain character is like, I got a bunch of old ladies in my basement, so don't worry, I can fake this whole religion thing at a moment's notice. It's like some kind of fucked up greenhouse with like half a dozen old broads in these like dog kennels or some shit. It's like kind of creepy and unsettling, but when you think about it, it's like really doesn't make any sense. Like he's just got 6 old ladies in his basement, like just in case, like some Mormons come by. He's anyway. I'm going to try to get to it. I'm going to try to get to it when I get to it. Everything that the villain says, Hugh Grant's character says, is like some half-baked conclusion he drew just after dropping out of college after his freshman year. Like he dropped out of like his theology major, like took one fucking theology semester and then dropped out of college. Like the villain of this movie seriously took an intro to theology class. He read a couple Wikipedia pages and concludes that he has this moral high ground to kill people because he thinks religion is fake and the people he's killing believe it. They don't think it's fake. Upon further reflection, when I reflect on the villain of this film, which is really, the whole main point of this whole fucking movie, it seems like his point is providing like this rude awakening to these religious people, these victims of his, because he wants to like rip the veil from their eyes before killing them. I mean, I'm guessing like he was always intending to murder the 2 Mormon broads. I'm guessing that was always his intention. Like he didn't just suddenly decide to do it. He was always going to murder him. But part of his sadistic thrill was like crushing their entire worldview before slitting their throats, which is like that. Even that's not entirely clear that like that's his purpose. Like he wants to take this sadistic pleasure before killing him. It's not entirely clear. It just seems like he wants to debate like very like intro to atheism talking points to some religious people, see how they'll react, and then fucking murder them. Let's get into like the logistics of everything that he's got set. His whole setup is is beyond far-fetched. I mean, how did he get all of these old broads into his subterranean chamber anyway without anyone noticing? Are they meant to be like previous Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses and shit? Maybe sprinkle in a Jesuit for good measure who like previously came to his door, like the cute Mormon broads in this movie. Like he's just been collecting religious people as they show up to his door. But if that's the case, then how come nobody from those organizations noticed that like half a dozen of their young, dumb, zealous missionaries have gone missing just after making a stop at this dude's house? I mean, like eventually when people go missing on your property, enough times you get reported to the police and the police start coming around. They even obtain warrants and they search your home and then they find your subterranean lair filled with old broads that you're keeping in kennels down there. I mean, it just doesn't make any fucking sense how he created this or assembled this group of old ladies that he could use as prophets at any fucking moment's notice. It's fucking ridiculous. And anyway, the villain concludes that religions are fake and they're a means of control over the masses. On one hand, it seems to indicate that he feels this like smug awareness of some hidden secret that provides him this moral high ground, like I mentioned, from which he can look down upon religious people with disdain. While on the other hand, he does the same shit. I mean, he's using this position he has to control and brutalize these poor fuckers whose only offense was to try to tell him about Jesus or some shit like that. Like these poor girls just showed up to fucking tell him about Jesus. That's it. And he's like, well, let's convince them that God isn't real and that religion is a simply it's a hierarchical structure that enables people to control you. And then I'm going to murder them. What's the point of teaching them a lesson if you're going to murder them? What's the point of fucking their whole worldview if you're just going to kill them anyway? You're supposed to fuck their worldview up and then send them out in the world so they can live the next 50 years a hollow shell after you've just completely gutted their insides. It's fucking stupid, okay? Look, ultimately, I'm left wondering why the villain, Hugh Grant's character, went through so much foreplay and for what end? Did he really put metal in all his walls and ceilings to and build his own subterranean lair and kidnap 6 old ladies over God knows how many years just to fuck with a couple of Mormon girls' faith before killing them? That's like building a mountain and growing a forest on it from dirt and seeds just so you can hunt a deer. That's fucking stupid. You don't build a mountain just to fucking hunt a deer. You don't plant a forest just to hunt a fucking deer. He's got metal in all his fucking walls so they can't get a cell phone signal. That shit is custom. You don't pay a contractor to come fucking metal proof your house so that nobody can get a call out because then there's a fucking paper trail. People know you're killing people in your fucking house when you pay contractors to come put metal in your fucking wall. So he did it all himself, or like him and a buddy, but obviously he has to do all of it himself. And you don't pay a contractor to come build some sub basement, some basement, because then you've got a contractor. Again, paper trail. They know you've got a subterranean lair where you're keeping fucking old broads. It makes no sense that he would do this shit himself. It would take him fucking a decade to build all this shit, to fuck with 2 fucking Mormon girls. This guy has a beef with Abrahamic religions, and he wants to go through all that just to test the faith of a couple of 19-year-old girls? Bruh, how about just become a Buddhist or some shit? You might rebut me by saying, like, oh, see, look, the villain did have a point. But for reasons I've already enumerated, it's a pretty fucking stupid point, if you ask me. This guy wants to prove a point about religion, but instead of writing a fucking blog, he seriously spends years plotting, planning, building, kidnapping, and grooming a stable of old ladies just so he can fuck with a couple of Mormons he met in a Costco parking lot? How fucking stupid is that? God damn it, my fucking head hurts now. Anyway, go see this film if you're an adolescent atheist or if you're an idiot who doesn't like to read. Otherwise, the questions that this film raises about the origins and purposes of religion are basic bitch level shit. I mean, you're not going to get into anything very fascinating or interesting. And I'm not a particularly religious guy myself. So, look, I'm very firmly in an agnostic camp if we're talking about my personal religious beliefs. So I would have loved a back and forth between a religious person and an atheistic person going back and forth, as long as we like went over some ideas that I didn't read fucking 25 years ago that aren't just complete basic surface level arguments. Get deep with me because I'm ready for it. This film did not go deep. I need, just like my wife, I need more inches, baby. And this movie did not have the inches for me. It doesn't have the inches for you. For all the talking in this film, the discourse never reaches a satisfyingly deep conclusion. It just turns out to be like a McDonald's art film about a guy who kills girls in his basement, which would be a lot cooler if they were naked. Tits out. Come on, man. If this was 1986, they'd be naked. Fuck this shit. This movie stinks, and so do you, you stinky bitches. I love you.
It stinks. It stinks. It stinks.